You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Hello. Okay. Seems like I might be working now. That was weird. Sorry about that. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. This is a Saturday Shoot the Breeze episode. Right? Saturday Shoot the Breeze episode number 2. I see some of y'all are with me already. For some reason, it's not letting me scroll up. Hold on, let me see. Dorico Cooper Photography is here. Daily Affirmations by Pauline is here. Dorico Cooper says, there's a lot going on in this world and we are the only ones that can save us. It's time to unify and be the change we want to see. We have everything we need to be successful. I'm feeling that. I like it. So let me quickly, you could tell I didn't really prepare much for today, right? But let me go back and see something real quick. There were some suggestions for topics tonight. If you guys have any topics you want to drop, go ahead and drop it. All right. Just to remind you guys too, on the Discord, Dorico Cooper Photography, known as General Abzu. Just recently, maybe yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, I can't remember. But just recently posted, his CV essentially. right? He's an experienced photographer, experienced driver, CDL holder, master scuba diver. That's cool. A Marine with 5 combat tours. That's real cool. BFA from the Art Institute of Virginia Beach. MA is in Transpersonal Visual Arts from Atlantic University in Virginia Beach. And so he wants to use his skills and talents for folks, you know, in our community. And we should join in with that. So if you have talents that align with, or interests that align with what Derico Cooper Photography has stated is his as his resume, make sure to link up with him. You know, I definitely want to talk to the brother about putting on a Discord only kind of like evening of talent, right? Poets come through, read revolutionary poetry. Photographers come through, display their works, and musicians come through and perform some songs, you know, some music. So that's what I want to do going forward. I have to admit, so one of the topics that was suggested by Daily Affirmations by Pauline on the Discord was religion, reason people are leaving the church in droves, right? So she has a couple different topics here, but I'll post them one at a time. The first topic is religion. Why are so many persons leaving the church in droves? And if I'm to be honest right now, wait, what's going on? If I'm to be honest right now, can you guys still hear me? This damn thing is doing all sorts of weird stuff right now. Of course, it's doing it while I'm on. I apologize for the inconvenience. Yeah, can you guys let me know if you guys can still hear me? I have a little bit of a technical difficulty that just occurred just now. Let me know if you can still hear me. Damn, I hate when this stuff does this weird stuff. Okay, Daily Affirmation by Point says she can hear me. Okay, cool. Life Finale says they can hear me. Cool. Sorry about that. It's just that this whatever. So okay. So the question was, let me post the question. The question was on religion, this first one. The reason why people are leaving the church in droves. You know, it's funny that that question was asked because this past week on Twitter, man, again, and I think I mentioned this the last show I did. Those of us who were like running the same circles on Twitter, along with others, but a lot of people who run the same circle on Twitter had this ongoing discussion about religion and the imperialism that religion brings. And in fact, today earlier, the Pro-Black Perspective did their reading on Yurugu, and they kind of touched on some of the stuff as well. One of the things people are, one of the reasons people are leaving the church, and to be clear, people often leave the church. And it's going to happen more and more with people becoming more and more educated, right? People leave the church because the church has proven not to change any aspects of people's lives. And we got to be honest about that. The church has proven not to change anyone's lives. Like Derico Cooper Photography just said, the baseline consciousness of the planet is leveling up. Exactly. You could have scared more primitive people with fairy tales and horror stories, right? But now people's consciousness is opening up, therefore their eyes are opening up, and they can see that really and truly the church doesn't solve your problems. At the end of the day, you got to roll up your sleeves and get busy. That's just what it is. At the end of the day, you have to roll up your sleeves and get busy, right? The church is not going to help you. All you're going to do is help the ministers and the priests and whatnot in the church. The reality of it is, though, one thing the church was able to do, and we talked about this some months back, the church was able to create a reward and punishment system that has people too afraid to full out stray from it. When I was listening to the Pro-Black Perspective earlier today, there was something that was said during that episode that I thought was pretty important, pretty heavy. It's that regardless of the concept, right? If you throw it out to black folks look to other people to live the concept. So you throw out religion, you throw out economics, they look for, some European economic system to save them. You throw out spirituality, they look for some European religious ideology to follow behind. And it seems like with our people, for example, we never look to something that's us, that's African, right? Even in doing something like a podcast, right? The reality of it is, like when I first started doing the podcast, I had to look to, because there was no one else to look to, I had to look to these other folks. And when they post their shows and how they organize and structure their shows and this, that, and the other. And the reality of it is our people are different people. And so I had to go, I started off using some of their ideas and I had to move on to my own and land on my own times and days and how I present the information and this, that, and the third, right? We are too often, and the Pro-Black Perspective is in the house saying facts, by the way, right? We are too often looking for something else to fix us. And so we rightfully, for example, should be leaving the church, right? We rightfully should be leaving the church. It doesn't solve our problem. Again, they're good. They're an organization, and they've copied certain parts of life, that we all have to deal with. They've copied, rites of passage in baptisms and confirmations and all this old shit. They bury the dead, right? Things of that nature. But outside of that, they're not solving your problems. It's funny, I was walking home a second ago, and I was thinking about all those people who serve in like political organizations, black political organizations, and those who serve in church, and there's almost no difference. It's almost, because the structuring is so similar, it's almost no difference. And one of the things that irks me with it is you got folks who are struggling but doing the church's business. In other words, how come the church isn't doing its business and this person who's working for the church is not being elevated or exalted, to use a church kind of term, right? How come that's not happening? There's a point in life, and there's several of them if you live a long enough life, called ages of reason. There's ages that we reach where we reason this shit out and we realize, well, this ain't making no sense, right? And so we do something different, hopefully. Others don't do things different because they're too afraid, right? But that's my take on why there's people leaving the church in droves. The next question, if anyone has anything else they want to add to that, by all means, add to it. I see Dorico Cooper Photography says you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. You know, Bob Marley. Yeah, absolutely. Eventually, people reach an age of reason, and just to tie this up, as we move on further and further with more information, right, more people will be leaving the church. The church is going to face a crisis at some point, I believe, because you can't keep stringing people along, all right, and that's essentially what the church does. The next question or topic from Daily Affirmations by Pauline that was posted on the Discord is music. Rappers who make millions and end up broke and don't own masters. Why so many kids want to pursue the rap career? Great question. Let me let that question linger for a few minutes and see if other folks jump on and want to answer, or or give their opinion, to that topic. Right? Rappers who make millions and end up broke, don't own masters. Why so many kids want to pursue the rap career? By the way, I didn't mention this when I started because I had a little technical difficulty at the beginning there. But this show is a part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. I mentioned another show on the network, which is the Pro Black Perspective. There are other shows, though, that you should be checking out. And sometimes, by the way, I do see some of you from this show in the chat room on the other shows. So, in particular, the Pro Black Perspective. So, kudos to you guys. But the other shows you should be checking out as well.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Also, check out the Queen's Council podcast as well, also here on KWAZ Radio. So no comments from that question. I'll just jump in. The Pro Black Perspective just came through and said, I'm guessing representation. When I was younger, I was pursuing astronomy, but I didn't even know there were other black astronomers except Neil deGrasse Tyson. So the Pro Black Perspective is saying that if that's what you see, then that's what you'll follow. KW Don 7 is in the room. KW Don 7 is saying people are leaving the church because it is lame. How long are you going to wait for Jesus Christ to come back when you cannot definitively prove he existed? You know, as KW Don says that, and I'm not moving away from the question that's on cue right now, but KW Don makes a point. But in that point, there's something interesting that I always notice. Most black people, especially in consciousness, we usually just focus on Christianity. Interestingly enough, and if you didn't know better, you would think that the Arabs didn't screw us over with their Islam too, and continue to screw us over. I mean, if you look at Africa right now, you look at Nigeria. Nigeria is just Christianity versus Islam waiting to blow up. So as we discussed on this show a couple weeks ago. So we always talk about the Jesus Christ thing, but we never really talk about the Muhammad thing, the pedo Muhammad, right? But yeah, I mean it's lame. I've had this discussion on my Facebook page for the Bitter Medicine Podcast. You guys, if you're on Facebook, you could connect with me there as well. There's people trying to read scriptures to me about why black folks have been suffering. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't want to hear no goddamn scripture about nothing like that. Right? like the homeboy, what's his name again? Polite said in a clip I played it on the show a couple of years back. You know, maybe even during the War on God episode, which a lot of people tend to like. But you know, we my grandmother and them was serving this idea, and great grandparents was serving this idea, was serving this person and waiting for them to come back. And all those people before them was waiting for them to come back. And I'm still here waiting for you to come back. And all this shit that happened? Come on, man. You can't. So yeah, like KW Don 7 said, you can't even prove his existence, right? Much less this idea that he's coming back. Regal Cool Photography says the entertainment industry is rigged and owned by the ooish. So that brings us back to the topic at hand. Music. Rappers who made millions. Hold on. Rappers who made millions and are broke and don't own masters. Why so many kids want to pursue the rap career? So, as the pro-black perspective, Only Say said, is representation, but there's more to it than that too. There's actually, it's the fact that these folks are pushing that representation. Like Only Say said, there's other black astronomers, right? Besides Neil deGrasse Tyson, by the way. But they don't push those folks. And I think KW Don 7 told me a little while back that Neil deGrasse Tyson is married to a white woman, right? That's what they push. Listen, it's about marketing and advertisement. If you marketed and advertised all these other areas that our kids could get into, and the key thing is to let them know that there's these other areas that you can get into, you use your brain, you get into, you flourish, and you'll be able to live pretty decent lives, right? Maybe you're not walking in the club and people popping bottles around you and all this stuff and all this old fool, and a lot of it's just a mirage anyway. But you'll have a cool little ride, you'll have a home, you'll have enough abundance to have a family, etc., 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 right? But that's not what's being pushed. And also, the rap thing is being pushed in a weird way. It's being pushed like a kind of like a get rich quick type scheme. It's pushed like if you could rhyme better than Old McDonald, right, that you're gonna just blow up and make money. And the rappers themselves push the idea, and it's a shame because I've heard Redman and Method Man and guys like that talking about you know, the fact that you get an advance and people think the advance is something great. You know, let's say you get even a $500,000 advance, but you have to pay for, you know, the videographers, the this, the that, and the other to get this album done. So it's not really, you know, it's not even really you making that $500,000, right? KW Don, sorry, not KW Don. Dorico Cooper Photography says the entertainment industry is rigged and owned by the ooish. I mean, that's the thing. If you don't own your product, you're gonna be a sucker. And that's just it. You know, you guys, it's the same thing with the sports and all that kind of stuff. You guys have all that talent. You guys have won the height lottery, right? And still, even though you might be making, even though you might be signing a deal for $200 million, that just goes to show you how much more money the owner is making, right? KW7 says rappers are dying broke because the music industry is a dirty business. It is not just rappers that have issues with masters. Anita Baker is going through a dispute right now. Rico Cool Photography says, I know some people that think it is just conspiracy theory, but there is a lot of satanic and ritualistic stuff going on in the entertainment industry. the way I look at it is this. If devils are running it, then expect there to be some, devilish stuff going on, some satanic or, whatever you want to call it stuff, right? That's just how I see it. If savages are running it, expect savagery. Expect it. Expect that to me. And the thing about these other folks too is like, there is nothing sacred for these folks. Ideally you would say, listen, like, let's look at like, what's my man, damn it, this white guy, not Epstein, the other guy from the movies who tried to get Lupita Nyong'o in bed and she refused him. I forgot his name. Harvey Weinstein, right? You take a guy like Harvey Weinstein. Now normally, listen, if you have talent, you come to me and I'm this quote unquote gatekeeper. I can give you the chance to act in a movie and do well, and the movie does well, and you get your awards, and I make my money, you make your bread. That's really how it's supposed to go down. But because of how these savages think, there's always a savage element to it. And some people call it satanic or whatever you want to call it, but it's a savage element to it, right? Expect, if you're a thirsty dude out there trying to make it at acting, expect one of these savages to tell you to bend over. That's just what it is, right? Meanwhile, if you had taken your talent and constructed a collective around you and your talent, and I know there's folks who tend to hate and all this old shit like that, but if you took the time around your talent, constructed you a team, right, that included the videographers, the writers, stuff like what Derico Cooper and I were talking about prior, right? It wouldn't be a case where, someone wanted to molest you just because, across this threshold that I command, there's riches and all this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, man, it's all about, you have to control your business. And you would think, just like with the church, you would think as more information starts to come out, you would think more and more people would just be about their business and constructing their teams and doing what they got to do. It's happening, but is it happening enough? And is it really African-centered at that as well, right? Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, do you think the youth want to because they see rappers living wealthy when teachers with degrees are struggling, working 2 jobs to survive? I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. I will never forget, years ago, someone told me something interesting. Many years ago. All right. They said that the reason why priests and preachers and stuff like that are kept up by the congregation is because if the priest was looking like he or she was struggling, right, or priest or priestess was struggling, right, like a teacher was, people wouldn't believe in God. If the leader of your church was struggling, folks wouldn't fuck with that church. That's just the reality. So when you see Creflo Dollar and them talking about, fund me and let me get this plane off y'all, right? Because Creflo Dollar reached that point, if he ain't flossing, he will lose congregants. That's just the crazy psychology that goes on with this stuff, right? So yeah, folks are seeing a dude who could rhyme, like I said, better than Old McDonald, right? Who came up out the neighborhood, and they seen him on TV, and they seen the imagery of wealth, even though it's a false image, right? Versus if you got to kids earlier, right, and you said, listen, you might be a teacher, right? You got to go to school and this, that, and the other, right? If you become a teacher, you know, you got to go to school, this, that, and the other, but you'll have enough money to be somewhat comfortable, whatever comfort looks like to you. And outside of that, maybe you have to push your abilities a little bit more. Maybe you have to tutor on the side or something like that, you know, a la working 2 jobs or whatever. You'll be able to survive. You won't be out here under threat of the gun, under threat of, you know, the street violence that these dudes are always under. I think most kids will take it. But you got to show them where it gives them a decent life, at least. The pro-black perspective says, true. If pastor is struggling, then religion is fake. Great point, right? And I'll tell you something too. Since you agree with that point, I'll tell you the crazy thing too is, like, even in this consciousness that we're in, if you're not pushing consciousness in all aspects, people will falter in how they follow you. I'll give you an example. You go back maybe 10 years, maybe less. You go back some years back, Umar Johnson was going around talking about he was celibate and all this old shit. And some lady who apparently was a stripper, and they dubbed her the conscious stripper, came and outed him. So if you go back and you remember, people started to fall off of Umar at that point, before the whole school thing. Because you're preaching something, but you ain't practicing what you preach, right? So it's crazy. It's wild. But you know, those are some of the reasons why the youth would want to be a rapper. It looks good, and let's be honest. Let's really and truly be honest. Let's really be honest about something like Kamala Harris would say. Let's be very clear. Being a rapper, a ball player, that's not break your back work either. Let's be completely honest about that. So, not all work is the same. And rapping and all that stuff, that's not break your back kind of work, right? That's not break your back kind of work. Playing ball, that's not break your back kind of work. Come on now, right? I get that there's certain things you do behind the scenes, the physical condition. In terms of sports players, you know, you got to hit the gym and this, that, and the other. But even that, let's be real. All right? There's dudes out here working construction and stone masons and all kind of stuff like that. That's, you know, come on. Right? Real Cool Photography says the box office is struggling right now too, and many of those actors and actresses are going to be working regular jobs if they are not ready. Yeah, again, because we have signed up, right? We have signed up to be the one Negro at a time, right? And again, that's what happens when other people control the wives, right? Like, only one person really gets work at a time, you know, a major work at a time. And so when things go bad for them, and that's another thing about proximity to whiteness, when they cough, we sneeze, right? So if they suffer in the box office, well, we gonna suffer. You know, pro-black perspective said that's why I never preach celibacy. Yeah, it's stupid. Good evening, Coach Pete. Glad to see you here back with us again. It's stupid to talk about celibacy, but whatever, right? The next question, let me see if I can pull up the next question real quick. Is about the diaspora. What does it say? Just bear with me a second here. The next question, I'll post it in the chat, is about the diaspora. Other groups finance projects, hire and make exceptions for their people, yet we don't. And that goes right back to what I was just talking about with the whole music industry, movie industry, all that stuff. I don't know if you guys saw. Did you guys see I posted in the Discord earlier? I said something because in listening to the Pro-Black Perspective episode earlier today, and by the way, if you notice something, I talk about the other shows and the stuff that they talk about. It's because I truly believe in the work that they do, right? So when I talk about them, I'm also saying, yo, you guys should check them out as well, right? When I listened to Pro-Black Perspective today, they reminded me, I think it was Onita who reminded me that there's Quelly TV and there's what's the other one, Afroland TV, that are, you know, Black streaming services with Black content, right? That if you were a creator or creative, there is no reason that you haven't or you're not working in collectives to put content out that if you had to, right? That if you had to, you could go and stream exclusively on Black streaming services, right? The fact that we're not doing that tells you we're just not there yet. We're not ready, but it's possible. See, we still think that it's white folks who can make us, and right on time, Dorico Cooper Photography says, if you let Urugu make you, he can also break you. And that's what we're still on this thing of letting white folks make us. We got independence. We're trying to create a new nation. Let's go see what these white folks have economically. Let's adopt that. As opposed to going back in time and looking at what we had before we encountered these folks. You went to some prestigious, white school or whatever to become an actor. Well, now you're pushing yourself up around them, and you have to take whatever they want you to take to get somewhere. We could be doing this work ourselves, but the reality of it is, and you know what? I should have said this early, and I had it in mind to say. The reality of it is, the reason why our folks go to church, the reason why our folks go the way of rap and all this old shit, we don't want real responsibility, man. That's really the bottom line of it. We don't want real responsibility. We don't want to be, we're not used to leading our own endeavors. I mean, we have examples of it, but we're not as a whole, as whole cloth. We're not used to leading our own endeavors, man. So you go to the church and let that man tell you what to do, what to think, what to believe. You want to have sex? No. That man in church told me not to have sex. I'm celibate. Right? And that's really the bottom line of all this stuff, man. We just don't want to take the lead. And the other side of that too, I posted this on Twitter some days back, or maybe even a week ago. But we really don't like, well, we got to come to grips with this too. A lot of our people don't like Black leadership. A lot of our people don't like Black leadership. I see it as a teacher in a college setting. I see it. You walk in and you think the Black students will embrace you and try to work harder to be inspired? Nah. Quicker some ooish person will do that. And that's a shame. The Pro-Black Perspective says, quote, we don't want real responsibility. Fire, fire, fire. Thank you. That's really what it comes down to, right? It takes responsibility to to head up a project, right? To find ways to finance it, right? It takes responsibility to hire the right people, and to make exceptions for your own people, like Daily Affirmations by Pauline stated in her question earlier, right? That's just our we just don't want the responsibility. Every episode I have to talk about rocket ships. We just don't want to shoot no rocket ships into space. We don't want that responsibility. That's a lot of math involved, a lot of science and mechanics and all this kind of stuff. Pro-Black Perspective says, reading Urugu, I was thinking, these black folk really want white control, but that responsibility remark is fire. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate that. That's just the bottom line. We don't want responsibility. It's easier to be a rapper. Listen, if you notice something about your personal lives, if your personal lives are anything like me, and we're all human beings and black at that, there's things in life that are just easier to accomplish, just easy to do on a daily basis, or whatever the cycle of time is, right? It's just easier to do. And there's some stuff that you push off because why? It's just hard to get through. There's a lot of levels, a lot of layers, a lot of extensions. It's just harder to do. Versus, say, sit down and watch TV. Sit down and watch TV is easy, right? To be a quote-unquote rapper is relatively easy. To use Onita Say's example, to be an astronomer, on the other hand, that's a whole different thing. And a lot of our people really ain't for it. And it's a shame to have to say it, but you have to speak the truth. But again, like Daily Affirmations by Pauline had put in her comment, other groups understand what power is. And they understand the power in putting your own shit together, putting your money up, right? Well, what's the old saying? What's the old saying? When I was a kid, it was a popular saying. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is. If you're about it, put your money where your mouth is. And we don't do stuff like that. Because we don't do stuff like that, no, we don't have the industries to hire our own and to make it the exception, to make the exceptions like Daily Affirmation by Pauline mentioned. You guys can also, the Pro-Black Perspective is commenting. You guys can also comment. Don't just listen. I know it's cool to listen. Again, it's easy to listen, but it's harder to be a part of the dialogue. But this is a safe space, right? Be a part of the dialogue, man. Let me go and find the other thing that Daily Affirmation by Pauline posted before. This time it's about wealth. This is an interesting question. You guys tell me if you think it's interesting as well. Right? But this next one is about wealth. It says, wealth, how to train children to value residual wealth and not the flashy spend your money on the newest fad. Let me let some other folks take that in and start posting their comments. I don't want to it's a shoot the breeze evening. It means we all talking, right? We all putting up our thoughts. So what do you guys have to say to that? Well, in terms of wealth, how do you train children to value residual wealth, not the flashy spend your money on the newest fad? KW7 says, we as the Black collective are very comfortable sitting in the high chair and refuse to get to grown-ups' table. Absolutely. 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 And we have to call that out more too. I know we call out some, we gotta call it out too, right? Again, listening to that episode, the Pro-Black Perspective earlier, another point that I like was made, and I've made the point on this show before too, and it's always been my thought about it, right? You look at the ADOS FBA groups, right? I mean, if you really look at what they're doing, it's so stupid, right? But no one's really holding them to be accountable for what they're doing. It's like you complain about all these other black groups, right? They taking your jobs in Hollywood. They propping you up. The white folks are propping up these other black folks over you and blah blah blah. And when you call that out, they'll say, well, y'all hating on our reparations. But what does that have to do with your reparations move? Right? We gotta start calling. I mean, that's childish. That's child's play type stuff. And this is where white folks like you. They like you, right? Being right there like children at their feet. Life of Nelly says by showing them how to spend money. That's a excellent point, and I think the pro-black perspective kind of follows it up. The pro-black perspective kind of follows up that point. Pro-black perspective says you got to get that residual wealth yourself and show it off. My dad had money, but had all the gadgets. Right? To me, those two comments kind of go together. You got to make it happen, and then you got to turn around and teach the youth as they come up how to make it happen. You got to live by example. Dorico Cooper says we have to first own something. Well, here's the thing, Dorico, and I feel where your comment is coming from. The reality of it is we own ourselves. We own our abilities until we make the concerted effort to sell it to these other folks. Let's be clear about something. Let's be real. I sound like Kamala Harris every day. Let's be really clear. If the NBA was full of white folks, if it was an all-white league, you and I wouldn't even fuck with it. We wouldn't even bother to mess with it. Same thing with the NFL and all that shit. If rappers were all white, we wouldn't give a shit about rap. We own our bodies, we own ourselves, we own our talents, and we need to start acting like we do. Daily Affirmations by Pauline says, by example, we train our children. Everyone likes nice things, but some folks go too far, going broke to impress people. When we learn lessons on investing, we need to explain the pros to our children. That's absolutely correct. And the thing is this, you know, what we cannot do is isolate our children. Because, for example, I have children, I don't have all the answers. Other people will have better insight into certain things than I would have. And because, you know, the old African mentality is that it takes a village, we have to have the village doing well too. We have to take ownership of ourselves, of our talents, of our output, right? We have to learn how to make ourselves, our talents, our output, what's the word? You know, worth something in terms of monetary value, if that's what we want to live off, for example, right? And we have to, through those examples, right? As well as investing the money that you make, also learning how to make that money work for you even while you're asleep and all that old stuff. We have to take advantage of that. And by the way, this is the last thing I'll say about it. It's a big problem I have with organizations and church and all that kind of stuff is that you're not out here to enrich yourself and make money and all this other stuff. So when I say organization, I'm talking like black organizations. Early on Twitter, I saw a statement about capitalism, and I had to ask, are you talking about the rigid capitalism, right? Of profits over people? Then I have a problem with that. But if you're talking about the basic concept of, hey man, if I'm innovating, if I'm putting stuff out there into the world, I should be able to profit off of that, right? I'm not taking advantage of anyone. In fact, the way I view an African economy is one where everyone has their basic needs taken care of, and those who innovate, they get a little bit extra, right? That's how I personally view it, right? And the thing I always hate about organizations and church is like, it's a culture of struggle. The same women who are out here holding up tracts for the 7-Day or Jehovah's Witness, whoever holds up the tracts, I can't remember now. Well, whoever does that dumb shit there, they're just like the folks in the organization who are struggling their ass off, but showing up to every meeting. Hungry, but showing up to every meeting. To me, the organization is failing there, just like the church is failing. Right? Dorico Cooper says, yes, they owe us reparations, so let's build power and make them pay us what they owe. We got to treat Uru like the IRS treats us when we owe them some money. Each one of us is worth at least 40 million, each just because we are melanated. Right? So just to be clear, Dorico, I get the reparations claim. I will never deny the claim. I just know, as it's currently set up, you ain't getting no reparations from these folks. And sitting around just running your mouth talking about reparations, this hope for reparations to be given, as it's currently set up, is just wasting time. That time could have been spent teaching your children how to be earners, right? How to invest, how to make bread, right? As opposed to doing that dumb shit. And also sitting up talking about all the other black groups and trying to shit on Caribbeans and Africans and all that stuff. That ain't helping your reparations claim neither. White folks ain't gonna like you more and say, you know what, I like what they're doing against some other groups. Let's give them some reparation. That's not gonna happen, right? The thing, like you said, build your power, and that's gonna require all of us to be a part of that power building, that nation building. And then armed with power, then we can make some demands. The pro-black perspective says, yeah, that's what I don't like about using word capitalism. Innovators need bread. Some people are going to work harder than others. That's what I'm talking about. This is why me and this fella get along. This guy, only time say, he's a cupcaker. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. The word, and as a matter of fact, only, let's come up with a different word, man. We gotta, because when we use these people's terms, we gotta use these people's definition. The innovator in a society cannot be getting the same, just his needs met like the guy who's drinking rum the whole day. He's getting his needs met too in the society that I envision, that I and others envision, right? If I'm out here, again, shooting rocket ships into space, I'm an innovator. Something has to be given to the innovators, right? The pro-black perspective goes on to say Fred Hampton Sr. was barely feeding his own family, but BPP feeding the neighborhood. Don't make no sense. make that make sense. The pro-black perspective post some cupcakes. I'm just joking about the cupcaking, man. I mean, let's focus on that Fred Hampton thing that Onita Say just posted there. Fred Hampton Sr. And there's a couple of other quote-unquote Fred Hampton Seniors too. From what I understand, MLK was similar. Malcolm X was similar, from what I understand. Right? Barely feeding his own family. But this organization he's a part of, Feed the Neighborhood. Any other comments about from you guys about what Daily Affirmation by Pauline posted in the Discord about wealth, how to train children to value residual wealth and not the flashy spend your money on the newest fad? So I'll say one last thing personally, while hopefully you guys have your final points on this question. In life, I've realized that you have to meet people halfway. You got to meet people halfway. You have to understand that kids will be kids. Young people will be young people. A big part of a young person's life is their socialization. They're going to want to wear and have some of the shit they see the folks around them wearing and having. Right? And that's something I had to deal with growing up as well. And folks telling you of like, you know, it's not about clothes don't make the man. That's not even really true. But the idea is that you have to meet people halfway, and you have to understand that they're gonna want to do some things they see others doing, but you as a parent have to curtail it. You have to throttle it. You have to monitor it, right? And while at the same time, you have to monitor it, while at the same time you have to be the positive example of what it looks like to have money, for example, to have wealth and moving through life with it without squandering any of it, right? You have to be the example. Dorigo Kufatori says, speaking of innovation, what's up with this black comic book? Are you talking about my comic book? Or are we talking a group thing? You know, one of these days I'm going to show y'all some of my drawing skills. I don't know if people know I could draw, but I'll show you all some of my drawing skills and this thing I'm working on too. I try not to talk about things too much before I do it, because that's the best way to look like a fool out here. So I'll show you guys something in the future. But if there's other work you want to do, in terms of writing, like for example, the pro-black perspective, I know I'm talking about him a lot this episode, but the pro-black perspective has this short story that you can purchase too, by the way. Zubairi and the Maroons of my, and when I first read it, I've read it a couple of times. When I first read it, I was thinking, Life with Nelly says, I would love to see your drawings. Yeah, it's gonna come. I'm gonna show you all some stuff soon. Right? When I was reading that story, I was thinking about wouldn't this be cool to turn it into some type of production? So like I've told you guys on the show before, I grew up, and Daily Affirmations by Pauline should be familiar with this stuff too. I grew up in a place and a time where we had audio plays and stuff. And back in them times, it was like Shakespeare. I think there was a time where I did remember listening to an audio play of Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, right? I think I did Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I did listen to that before. And I was thinking about that Maroons, Zubaria and the Maroons and I was thinking about, man, it'll be dope to get some folks together. Of course, the author, he's in the chat room. He would have to say thumbs up or thumbs down to that, but it'd be dope to get like a production, like even if it's like an audio production of the story or something like that, right? That's the kind of things I think more people should come up with. And I see Dorico Cooper Photography has an idea that I kind of like. He said, let's all create a character, backstory, uniform, motivation, vices, etc. And we can do that on the Discord. I have some resources on like the hero's journey, like the template for the hero's journey that all these guys, like the guys who write like Rick and Morty and stuff, they follow. In fact, the guys from Rick and Morty actually created their own version of the hero's journey. You know, I could post that. Folks will come in, create a full character sketch of your characters. We could talk about story. And the Pro Black Perspective is a writer. You know, like I said, he's written his own short story. He could play a part in that too. You know, me storyboard, fine. That's cool. I don't mind that. And Dorico Cooper is a photographer, as his name states, so he could help even with framing, perspective, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's a good idea. The Pro Black Perspective says the cupcake relates though. Women and men gotta stop dating people without property or land ambitions. I agree with that. I'm gonna say something that a lot of people wouldn't really like. All right, so Dorico, I agree with you. I'll storyboard. I have no problem with that. Pro Black Perspective say sounds cool, right? That's something that we can do. That's something we can own as a collective, and see it turn into something else. Dorico Cooper will do the stunts. Yeah, you do that, man. You could do the stunts, right? But that's how we gotta think. Before I go back to the Pro Black Perspective point, that's what we have to think. We have to think about what do we have around us, right? And how can we put it all together? There's a guy that, have you guys ever heard the interview I did with, damn, why can't I remember the brother's name right now? He's the practitioner of 52 Blocks. Diallo. I can't remember Diallo's full name. But Diallo was down with this guy named Maurice Crump. Is it Maurice Crump? I think it's Maurice Crump is the guy's name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering names right now. But yeah, stunts for a comic book, right? But but anyway, that Crump guy, I actually saw him in a film the other day with the Crump guy is a martial arts guy, and I actually saw him in a film with this other black guy. Man, I'm bad with names, boy. God damn. What's that guy's name? What's the guy's name who starred in Spawn? The movie Spawn. What's his name again? I saw the Crumb guy. He was like one of the villains in a movie with the guy who starred in Spawn. But I bring him up because at one point he was doing this series. I'm pretty sure if you follow me on Facebook or something like that, I reposted the first episode that they did. And it's pretty cool to see a black dude kicking ass right through the hood, right? And it's all done, for, as far as I know, it's black folks who put it together. I'm saying the same thing can be done with the Discord, with what we have around us. And if we pull up some people who we're cool with or whatever into it, we could actually write stories and put out scripts. It's not far-fetched. It's right there to be had, to be done. But to go back to the Pro Black Perspective point about the cupcaking and women and men gotta stop dating people without property or land ambitions. You know, I'm gonna say something that a lot of people won't like, but we gotta stop messing with people with no ambitions, period. We gotta stop dealing with people just based on how they look, And I know that's going to be the tough one, because everyone's going to say, well, it's human to like what you see or see what you like or whatever. But we got to start changing that too. That's another problem I have with organizations and church and all this old shit. Like, you know, to me in an organization, if I was running an organization, one of the main things I would be trying to teach folks, right, is how to date. It's how to date, right? To me, no, it's not Wesley Snipes. It's Wesley Snipes and Star and Spawn. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. It's Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White. That's who starred in Spawn, right? Him and this Crump guy that I'm talking about. If I ever find the episode, I'll post it in the Discord, and you guys will be able to see what I'm talking about, right? I'll look it up, right? It was a pilot for a series, but I don't think the series ever took off because I never saw anything again from it. But yeah, Snipes was Blade. But anyway, in the churches and in these organizations, like what the focus is on a lot when it comes to the youth is just silly to me. Right? Like in church, you're preaching to young folks who have hormones raging. You're telling them it's a sin if they look at someone, you know, lustfully or some shit like that. It's just stupid. You know? Spawn did have an animated series. It was good too. Spawn's I'm peace to M Chaka in the room. You guys be moving in silence in my chat room, boy. But yeah, Spawn had a animated series too, which was pretty good. But it wasn't long lived. But again, it's these. By the way, Black Panther had an animated series. It was a stop motion capture type thing. It was pretty good. Didn't last, right? And again, had that been something black folks was putting out, it would have it actually, in my opinion, would have lasted, right? But yeah, we gotta start teaching, you know, to go back to that teaching the kids stuff. We gotta teach kids what to choose and mates and all kind of stuff, man, and stop looking just at the physical, right? When it's time to choose a mate, you don't look at the physical. I had an uncle when I was a kid who pointed out something to me. He said, and this is back in the 80s, right? So this is when Denzel was like a grown man, but a young man and stuff. And he was starting to get like all that acclaim. He was on the covers of magazines and this and the other. My uncle said to me, he said, look at Denzel's wife. Does she look like, I don't know, it sounds like a shitty thing I'm about to say, but think about it. He was like, does she look like, you know, she should, like, does she look like Denzel should be married to her? And I looked at the lady, and, you know, Denzel's wife is not a bad looking lady, right? But I looked at her and I got what he was saying. Like, his point was Denzel got with that kind of a homely looking woman and say, you know, because she was good at taking care of the finances, she could hold down the home and all this stuff, right? And that's something we got to start fostering with our people, man. Like if you're out there in the dating scene right now, you know just how shitty it is right now. You know, and it was something I took note of. Like by the time I had turned 30 or 35 or whatever, like what was out there was in the dating scene just was boring, uninspiring. You want to start pushing the youth to really start dealing with people who are inspiring, right? People who are inspired, people who are going to be on some let's try hold some line wherever you are too. But understand that in America, holding line here could, you know, that could backfire in the future, right? But still, it's ambition and it's making something happen, right? You know, that's what we got to start doing more as people. In the chat room, Life and Night says, show the kids how to make the right choices. The other side of that, Nelly, is kids have to also take direction. You know, and it's kind of a kid's nature not to really follow all the direction, you know, but kids gotta take directions a little bit more, you know. Drigo Cooper Photography says, yep, make doing the right thing popular. Absolutely. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, I know grown women who still only judge a man on his looks and pockets. I mean, listen, when it comes to the looks thing, I you know, even though I'm saying what I'm saying, I get it on one hand that, you know, you want to be with someone who you can look at. You don't want to be with someone who you have to brown bag, right, to have a moment with, right? So I get it on that level. And you also want to be with someone who can provide. You know, if you're a woman especially, you want to be with someone who's a provider, but you don't want to be with someone who's just those two things. You know what I mean? You want to be with someone who's a protector, someone who can give guidance, you know, who can heal. You know, there's a lot of aspects to people that just goes unnoticed, and you know, it's a shame. And again, we have these churches, we have these political, you know, black political organizations that don't at all look into it, like don't at all address it. And if they do address it, it's some unnatural shit they're talking, right? Let me see. Was there anything else from Daily Affirmations by Pauline? Wow, we've been here over an hour already, shooting the breeze. How do you guys feel about the Shoot the Breeze segment? This is the second week. How do you guys feel about the Shoot the Breeze segment that we introduced last week? All right, so Daily Affirmation by Pauline didn't have any more comments. So, you know, I also meant to introduce this t-shirt. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know I had this t-shirt with the banner for the podcast on it, and I was thinking to do a giveaway, free t-shirt giveaway, just to kind of honor the folks who come through, the folks who you know, inspire themselves through the commentary that they leave. I should have had that set up. I don't have it set up, so I'm messing up. But if you guys, I'm gonna throw it out to you guys. In fact, this is how I'm gonna do it. If you guys had to guess, and I like all of you who are listening at the same time right now, and I've seen some of you now, M. Chaka and the like, who do you think should get the free t-shirt giveaway for this week? Even though I don't have it lined up to show you what it looks like, who do you think should get the free t-shirt giveaway? I'll go to a station ID break while you guys decide. I'll be back on the other side.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is DAX. You tune into the Harsh Reality Podcast, providing you with social commentary on the news affecting our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the pro-black perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Also check out the Queen's Council podcast. check out the Queen's Council podcast, also on KWAZ Radio. So I got some responses. Great. Okay, so Daily Affirmations has another topic. I will get to that in a second. Coach Pete says, I feel great. I love the topics. I appreciate that. We have Daily Affirmation by Pauline to thank for that. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, I enjoy these podcasts. I enjoy you guys. I enjoy your company here as well, Pauline. Life with Nelly says, the topics are interesting. I would love to have an episode 3. The topics are relatable. Okay. Now people are answering who should get the free t-shirt giveaway, and it would be everyone's who's answering is saying Dorico Cooper, Coach Pete is saying Dorico Cooper, Life with Nelly saying Dorico Cooper, Jerry Wallace, hey Jerry Wallace, thanks for being here. Jerry Wallace is saying Daily Affirmations by Pauline. The Pro-Black Perspective is saying Daily Affirmation by Pauline. She made the questions! Exclamation point. All right. So we have a bit of a tie. We'll see how we break the tie break in a minute or two. Daily Affirmation by Pauline says, opinion on the war on drugs. In the 80s, local economies thrived, although many lost their lives going out to sea collecting dropped drugs. Opinion on the war on drugs. Late 80s, local economies thrived, although many lost their lives going out to sea collecting dropped drugs. Dorico Cooper Photography says, war on drugs, ha ha ha. With a drugstore on every corner, Rite Aid, CVS, Walgreens, etc., cannabis about to be legal in all 50 states, and Urugu owns 90% of the dispensaries. I mean, Dorico kind of summed that one up, right? He kind of summed that one up. Dorico Cooper Photography also says, Pro-Black Perspective, winner of the first t-shirt giveaway. Okay, so you guys are kind of fragmenting it, but it's still Daily Affirmations, I would say, and then Dorico. But Dorico is correct. I mean, you know, again, I'm going to reference Umar, who was on the Breakfast Club the other day. I mean, he was talking about while you were locking up black men, for example, for drugs, you were giving his children these prescription drugs that contain some of the same street drugs you were locking up their parents for, their fathers for, right? The war on drugs tells you all you need to know. And by now we all know, you know, the whole thing was bullshit anyway. The Rockefeller drug laws was just bullshit to criminalize black folks more and more, you know. But that comment that you made about folks going out to sea, you know what's funny about that comment? And it's funny, like I was just thinking about it literally like 3 or 4 days ago. I remember growing up home, and this will be one of the last stories I tell tonight. I remember growing up home. I remember there was a guy. So you know, like how you could buy the lotto and stuff in America. Home, you know, there was numbers. There were numbers runners, and I know, like in parts of New York and stuff, there's numbers too. You know, that's quote unquote illegal, I guess. But there was these numbers runners and stuff, and I remember I used to go to this one guy to buy numbers for my grandmother, and around there used to be a lot of grown men hanging out. It was like a rum shop too. A lot of grown men were hanging out and stuff. And one guy was always like a business guy, older man, always like a business guy. And I remember one Saturday morning, he called over this young gentleman. So let's say at the time I was 15. This guy he was talking to, let's say he was like 25 at the time. And I remember he called him over and he was telling him, he was like, you know, kind of whispered like, yo, if you do this job, you go out on the boat 3 weeks, blah, 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 blah. You make a bunch of money, this, that, and the other. And you know, that guy, that young guy, who I had known for a long time, right? He was just as older than me. That guy went out to see somewhere, never saw him again. Never saw that guy again. So it's funny that you would give that example, right? This guy went out to sea selling drugs, never to be seen again. And that was a common thing in the 80s too, mid and late 80s. That was common for folks to go missing, right? Messing with that drug stuff. So anyway, the t-shirt giveaway will go to, we're gonna give it to Daily Affirmations by Pauline. The only thing I ask of free t-shirt giveaway, guys, I think I'm gonna do it anytime we do a shoot the breeze. So others of you would have an opportunity to win the t-shirt as well. All I ask is that you take a picture in the t-shirt, tag me on social media, and that's it. Take a picture in the t-shirt, tag me on social media, and that's it. All right. The Pro Black Perspective says, damn, yeah, that's every couple of years I think about that exchange that happened right in front of me. You know, and that guy who never was to be seen again. And I'm sure I have other instances of guys dying behind the drug game back in the day too. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. Let me shout out everyone who was here tonight. So Daily Affirmation by Paulie, and I'll get your contact information on size and where to send the t-shirt, etc. I'll get that from you on the back end. I just want to shout out those who were here. The Pro Black Perspective was here today. You guys make sure to check out the show that he did earlier today. I think it's a real good show, a real good understanding on what it is these folks' religion is and what it does to you. Like I mentioned, you know, we choose for everything in our life that we need to do, we choose someone else's ideology to complete it, right? So I want to thank Daily Affirmations by Pauline, the Pro Black Perspective for being here, Dorico Cooper Photography. Dorico, hold me accountable to create the channel where we start to put together these ideas and stuff like that. So hold me accountable for that. The Pro Black Perspective was here. I appreciate you. Jerry Wallace was here. First time seeing Jerry Wallace here. Appreciate you for being here. Life with Nelly was here, of course. Coach Pete was in the room. I appreciate you. Who else was here? Who am I missing? I'm missing someone. Oh yeah, KW Don 7 was here, of course. All right, can't forget KW Don 7. I think that's oh yeah, Chaco was here. All right, want to thank all of you who were here. You make shooting the breeze and, you know, all these live streams, you make it worth the while. If you guys ever have ideas for future topics on shooting the breeze, just let me know. We can incorporate those. Again, thank you guys for being here. I will be back reading another paper on Tuesday. All right, so you guys make sure to tune in Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be there. And until next time, peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.